Jane Velez Mitchell for Unchained TV. We are covering the chicken rescue trial in Merced County, California. We're going to go right out to the scene where court has ended for the day. Bring us up to date, Carla. I see people behind you. What's happening?
Well, it's definitely been a long day. The day started with a little more jury selection, and then we moved into hearing motions. So there were an incredible amount of motions to be heard. Even the judge was a little bit exhausted by all of the motions. And Wayne is behind me, and we're going to be able to travel in the car with the defendants. So you'll be able to ask questions along the way. But that's pretty much it. The day was really just full of lots of motions. Overall, it was pretty good. We lost the motion for the necessity defense, but they did get a lot of motions granted. So it was about 50-50. And Wayne can go over all the specifics of that in just a little bit.
Can he talk to us now? Oh, we lost her for a second, but there we go. Wayne.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you? What was court like today? I saw some ferocious arguments. What did you win? What did you lose?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, but we lost probably what I would say is the most important argument. It was probably the hardest argument as well, which is an argument that animals are someone, not something, and therefore the defendants are entitled to argue that their actions were necessary to prevent bodily harm and significant evil to a person. And the judge, unsurprisingly to us, ruled that a chicken is not a quote-unquote person or someone, and therefore the necessity defense doesn't apply. That's particularly disappointing because we had an initial ruling by the prior judge that we were optimistic about, that the judge was actually going to entertain that argument in a serious way because it's just correct. It's correct biologically. It's correct morally. All of us know there's a difference between a chair and a dog. Right, all of us know there's a difference between a paperclip and a chicken. The chicken cries when you hurt her. The paperclip does not. But the law, sadly, is not up to date on that very basic biological fact. But we lost that argument today, not surprising, because for the most part, judges don't like to do things that are different, that are new, that are brave. And I was hopeful about this judge, at least on this particular ruling, and he wasn't willing to take that lead. On the other hand, on almost all the other rulings, this is a very good day. And I think we won, more than we lost.
I saw you arguing vehemently about discovery and what the prosecution, who they were going to present, that they had said they weren't going to present somebody, and then all of a sudden they said, we're going to present an expert. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so up to this point, the prosecution has said, we're claiming the chickens are worth $20, and the person who's going to testify about this is a regional security supervisor. So they've been saying the chickens are healthy, they're fine, there are no problems, we take care of our chickens. And partly as a result of the motions we filed over the last few weeks, and partly as a result of the discovery we've propounded on the prosecution, meaning the documents we've given them in preparation for trial, even the prosecution is kind of conceding, oh, damn, these chickens were sick. These chickens were neglected. These chickens are mistreated. And so for us to have someone to come up and testify, well, the market value of a healthy chicken is $20 is sufficient to prove these people stole something in value, that's not going to be enough. So at the very last stage, literally on the Friday before trial, we get an email with an audio recording of a witness statement who is a high-level executive of Foster Farms, a vice president of operational and strategic accounting, who's making some arcane accounting argument based on concepts like condemnation credits and rendering credits, that even a sick and disposed animal has some value because they process some of the organic material. That's literally what he says. He says organic material. He doesn't refer to them as chickens anymore. These diseased, sick, injured, dead chickens, we process into organic material. And literally the number he gives is 0.038 cents per pound. Not even 3.8 cents per pound, but 0.03 of a penny. And so they went from arguing these chickens were worth $20 to arguing they're worth 0.03 of the penny, but that's enough. That's all you have to prove. And under the law, the latter of the law says that for petty theft, at least, which is what Alexandra and Alicia are charged with, even 0.038 cents is enough. Now, the problem is we didn't find out about this until the Friday before trial. We don't have an accounting expert. We haven't had our expert look into the concept of rendering credits, look at the laws and regulations around all of this. So we argued today, this is nonsense. We've been asking the prosecution for months, since December, hey, how are you going to prove value? How are you going to prove value? Because you have to prove that these people are trying to steal something from you of value. And we don't think they're thieves. We think they're good people who are trying to help animals. Frankly, it costs them money to do this. Not only were they not trying to steal something, they had to sacrifice. They had to pay vet bills and medication bills, all these costs involved in caring for these sick animals. And the state, up to this point, has given us absolutely nothing. And literally the Friday before trial, they suddenly drop a bomb, a bunch of documents, a new witness, a high-level executive, and a completely new theory of value based on the idea that even a diseased chicken has value. Now, the judge granted our motion to exclude this witness, but the problem is the judge also said this witness will be able to testify in rebuttal. So after our witnesses testify and after our expert testifies, he'll still get to testify, which to me is inappropriate and incorrect, but you got to live with what you get, and that's what we got today. So, you know,
Yes.
It's better than the alternative, but not what we're asking for.
Well, we have former Manhattan District Attorney Nathan Semmel with us. I'm sure you have questions for Wayne. Fire away.
Please.
Well,
By the way, how are you doing, Nathan? Thanks so much for the help you've been giving me. We shouldn't talk about it on this live stream because it's confidential, but I appreciate it, my friend.
I have not and I will not. It's good to see you, Wayne. Thanks for everything.
For anybody who has a question, Dotsy, do you have a question? All right, Nathan.
I think you're muted, Dotson.
Wayne, tell what's going on with jury selection.
Yeah, so jury selection is, you know, Nathan probably will agree with this. It's probably the most important part of the trial. I mean, you kind of win and lose cases before the trial starts if you have the wrong jurors. And one thing that's been really interesting in this jury process is a lot of people have been excused. So we had 80 people polled originally and 30 of them left. And a lot of this was just kind of routine hardship because, you know, someone's got a surgery planned for next week or they've got young children they're caring for. But we had a lot of people who either have some prejudgment of the case or who work for foster farms. You know, someone who just came in and said, I work for foster farms. I mean, I don't know if you want me on this trial. And we're like, no, we'll let you go, you know, because when you're an employee of a company, you cannot be a juror in a case where the company has a very, very keen interest in the outcome. So we've actually had some difficulties because this is a relatively small county, 281,000 people. Foster Farms is a huge and powerful influence in this county. And so finding kind of an objective set of jurors who have no connection to the company might be a little struggle. And so we've actually had to call not just one, but 2 additional panels of jurors to find unbiased people, people who don't have hardship. But tomorrow what we're going to do is going beyond kind of the initial screening done by the judge. The attorneys will have a chance to ask some questions of the jurors and make sure none of them are trying to hide some sort of bias. So that's what's going to happen tomorrow. And if you get a good jury, a fair jury, a jury that's going to listen to the evidence fairly and impartially, you've got a much better chance of winning. So we're going to hope for that tomorrow.
And I just want to say, anybody in our panel has questions, you know, Wayne's busy and we'll just get a couple more minutes with him, but this would scream for change of venue. Not being a lawyer myself, I don't know if you can ask for that once the process has started, but I think one of the reasons you won in Utah is that the initial county was so biased, you got to change of venue.
Yeah, you know, we thought about it this case. Curtis is the one who actually gave us the change of venue. This is the reason we actually got the change. So Nathan and any criminal defense or civil attorney for them, and will tell you change of venue motions are very rarely won. And the reason is judges will usually say, if there is a biased community, the appropriate solution to that is voir dire, is to question the jurors and find out if they have a pre-existing bias. And it's kind of nonsense because, you know, people often aren't straightforward about their biases. How many people come forward and say, like, yeah, I'm totally biased. I'm an unfair person, so don't pick me because I'm totally unfair towards everybody. You know, I'm an asshole. No one's going to say that. Yet most judges will say, even if there is a community that's heavily biased against a particular set of people, against animal advocates, against, you know, women, against whatever the category is, that there's some bias, the appropriate way to solve that is just to ask them questions. But the other consideration for us beyond the difficulty of change of venue motions is just the fact that a lot of surrounding counties are also farm counties. And it's not clear that we would have done much better because sadly, Foster Farms isn't just huge and influential in Merced County. They're also huge and influential in Fresno County and Stanislaus County and pretty much all the other counties around here. So if we got bunned from Merced, we probably would have ended up in a county that was in many ways just as involved in Foster Farms business.
And Donnie, you had an excellent question. Shoot.
Yeah, Wayne, you mentioned that the prosecution stated that the chickens are healthy, but we know that chickens who are raised in factory farms have musculoskeletal issues from being forced to grow so quickly. Their skeletal systems can't carry the weight of their unnaturally large breasts. They have cardiovascular issues. So does the fact that we know that these chickens are unhealthy, all of them, each and every one of them, does that help the defense in any way?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how much of that evidence we get in on the first hand, but secondly, how much it sways the jury. I mean, I think Donnie's been through my open rescue training, and I kind of talk about kind of 3 levels of suffering inside of a factory farm and 3 levels of disease. There's kind of the routine suffering and disease that pretty much all the animals are facing. Mother pig in a gestation, greatest suffering. She's living her entire life in 14 square feet of space. A chicken in a meat farm where each of the chickens is given 144 square inches. I mean, this is a 7-pound animal living in 1 square foot of space, for their entire lives, or less in some cases. So all the animals are suffering in that regard. Then there's animals that are suffering from some acute crisis or disease, right? And it could be a leg injury, it could be a disease like, avian flu or enterococcus or campylobacter, all sorts of diseases these animals are afflicted. And that's a second category of animals that, if they don't receive any sort of care, they will die. And there's a third category that sadly is very large as well. And that is a category of animals that are imminently going to die, like within minutes, hours, or days. And sadly, that was the category these 2 chickens were in. They were in dire medical state. They were on the brink of starving to death because they could not walk. And the evidence shows that one of them actually did die, sadly. And the idea that Foster Farms is prosecuting these women for taking out a chicken that clearly was so sick that he couldn't even survive a few days later, he couldn't even walk and reach food, is absolutely preposterous. It's one of the reasons when I was angry today in court, it wasn't feigned. I mean, I am genuinely outraged the prosecution is bringing this prosecution against 2 very good, decent human beings. But that evidence is going to be crucial. And I'm not giving away our strategy at this point because we've already filed all our motions. And the prosecution knows that we believe, and in fact, not only do we believe, we have definitive evidence that these chickens were sick, they were injured, and they were going to die.
And this is a picture of one of the chickens, Jax, who survived. One died, and this chicken is at an unidentified sanctuary living out her best life. And what I thought was so shocking, and it happens over and over again, is that the prosecutors, they did this in your case, compare these living beings to inanimate objects. In this case, a car today, and we've got that clip.
A broken down car.
In your trial, it was a can in a store. What do you make of that sort of disconnect that they constantly are referring to these animals with hearts and eyes as inanimate objects?
A system that forces otherwise reasonable people to compare living beings to garbage is not just absurd, it's profoundly corrupt, because this is how atrocities occur through history. When you normalize the commodification of living creatures. I mean, no one actually believes that. No one thinks a pig is like a dented can or a chicken is a broken down car. We all know that when a chicken cries, it's because she feels pain. I mean, this is as scientifically proven as any propositions that science has discovered over the last 2,000 years. That animals feel. Every 5-year-old kid, every 6-year-old child who goes to first grade biology class knows this. And the idea that our legal system, not just our legal system, but the designated prosecutors, the lawyers for our government that we pay for, our taxpayer dollars are paying for, are the ones inflicting this sort of nonsensical, illogical absurdity on our entire society is one of the reasons we need to have these fights in the court of law. So people can see the district attorney saying, oh, no, it's just like taking a dented can. It's just like taking a broken down car. You can't do that. It's like, no, because a broken down car doesn't cry out in agony when you sever the tire from the car. A dented can doesn't scream in agony when she's taken from her mother and crushed to death on a pile of other dead and decomposing piglets, as happens to piglets all the time at facilities like Smithfield. They're literally buried alive and crushed under a pile of dead bodies because they've been improperly stunned. There is a big difference, an important difference. a moral difference between a dented can or a broken down car and a living creature. And the fact that our legal system is making these absurd, preposterous, factually and scientifically wrong arguments shows why we have to have this argument in court. Because when the public sees these contrasting positions, I think the public will side with us. And that's what happened in Utah. Let's knock on wood and hope that happens in Merced County, California, too.
And is that sort of a prelude to your closing arguments? I know you got to go, so I don't want to hold you up. You got to do trial prep and everything else. So we'll follow you as we can. We don't want to hold you up. Last thing we want to do is, inhibit your ability to prepare your defense. So it's so amazing to hear from you.
Thank you.
Wow, we've got some shots of you in court. Let's get our panel's reaction to what we've been hearing with Wayne Hsiung. Yes, we'll follow you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate all the coverage, and let's all keep fighting the good fight.
Okay. Well, let me go to you. First of all, hey, Alicia Santurio, you're one of the other defendants. We haven't heard from you. Let's just really quickly hear from you for a second, because you're one of the heroes. We have not heard from you. You're one of those who grabbed the chicken. While you talk, I'm going to show what you did. Go ahead.
What's it
like? What's it like being on trial?
It's really exciting. I'm glad we're able to raise so much awareness for the animals. I think we have a really fair judge. Of course, like Wayne was saying, we didn't win on all the motions that we wanted, but I think we have a good shot, and I think we're going to get some good evidence in, and we're going to get a lot of conversation started. And
are you scared? Are you scared at all?
No.
So
no, I'm not.
You're prepared,
I'm just glad,
boss, to go to jail?
I don't want to go to jail. I also have a really old dog, so who's very needy and needs me a lot. So I don't want to be away from him for long. But like what's happening to these chickens and animals all over the world, it's just unacceptable. And I'm just glad and proud that I'm in a place where I can put my freedom on the line to raise awareness and hopefully help these animals. I mean, the conditions that Ethan and Jax were in, it's just unbelievable. They were suffering so much and they were neglected. And foster farms, if they have all these animals in their care, they have a responsibility to care for them while they're in their care, and they're not doing that. They're abusing them and they're neglecting them, and it's time for that to stop, and it's time for the public to know about that. I don't know where Andre parked. Okay.
All right. Alicia, extremely well said, and I hope your dog gets to stay with you. Wow. I want to go to Dotsie because Dotsie, Bye. Great job, as always. Our intrepid reporter, Carla Cabral, on the scene. I've always said she's going to be snatched up by a network before the end of this broadcast. But Dotsie, you were personal friends with Alexandra Paul. When you hear this kind of just like, hey, if I have to, I'll go to jail. What runs through your heart?
Yeah, I think same as you guys, right? I mean, it's just, you look at this and you step back and you say, how on earth is it legal to torture and murder living beings that you supposedly own, and then criminal to save them from the horror that they were having happen to them while on the truck and before, and then of course after, if they had gone into that slaughterhouse. And I mean, we all applaud the bravery of these women so much, but it's just what we were talking about last night. Just, Alicia and Alexandra, they're proud to be on the stand. They're proud to stand up for these individuals, and this will go down in history. And like we were saying, yeah, okay, the mainstream media isn't there, but this is going to make a difference. It's going to move the needle, and it's going to change. It's going to change something. It will.
And that's why we're here, Unchained TV, which is a nonprofit, 100% free global streaming network. You can download the app on your phone or on your TV via Amazon Fire Stick, Roku device, or Apple TV device, or you can watch online at UnchainedTV.com. And we do this because I was in mainstream media for 40 years, and I know about the mainstream media blackout. I experienced it every day firsthand. So,
Jane,
yes.
I had a question. I feel like maybe we all have, or at least the viewers that have, and maybe ask Nathan.
Yes.
Because if the judge has ruled that the chicken is not an individual, not a being, then how will Wayne argue that torture matters if it is a broken down car?
Good question, Nathan.
Well, the judge definitely made it harder for them today on at least on that defense. But let's remember that in Utah, the judge didn't allow necessity either. So, I would not lose hope. And my understanding, though Wayne had to go, is there are other defenses that are available here. They're still going to be able to argue that, like in Utah, while the prosecution might say that the animals have some market value, I believe that the evidence is going to show that they were actually a financial liability to the company because they were sick, and that they would, if brought to market, they could probably cause more problems for foster farms than if they discarded them. And I think the defense will probably have evidence to prove that, and that was successful. That was successful in Utah. Also, my understanding is that Alicia and Alexandra, relied on their good faith belief that that these particular birds, or probably all the birds, most of the birds coming in from the truck, were so sick and we're not going to get any care. It goes to their state of mind, because remember, at the end of the day, this is a larceny case. This is a theft case. Did they intend to steal? And I would argue, and I imagine the defense is going to, that no, there was no intent to steal. The intent was to rescue. So I think there's still a lot of defenses that are available to them. And what Wayne said is right regarding jury selection and how important it is, because what you're hoping for is that you get at least one juror, and hopefully all of them, who have compassion and who will say, there's no way I'm going to convict these good people. These people aren't thieves. These people are, they're true to their convictions. They believe that, they want to end suffering, and I'm not going to find these people guilty. So I remain confident. It would have been fantastic to get the necessity defense, but I think they'll be okay.
All right. Well, I want to talk to everybody about all the legal aspects and the emotional aspects of this. Let's go into court. And again, this idea that the prosecution keeps comparing these chickens to non-animate objects. So let's check this out. There's a little shaky video, but we just got this in from court a second ago, so bear with me.
Defendants believe that they had a title or claim in specifically to these chickens. That is what claim of right is about. They also are articulating that the chickens are treated so poorly that the chickens are trash. However, again, that is not a belief that argument that the chickens are somehow belong to the defendants, that merely that Foster Farms is not treating these chickens up to the defendant's subjective standards. If this defense, it would be like me.
A little bit of a glitch there, but you get the basic idea. He's saying that, just because you feel that they're being treated like trash doesn't give you the legal right to take them. And then he proceeds to say, if you saw a beat up car on the street, does that give you the legal right to take that beat up car? What is your reaction to that argument? Ellen Dent of Animal Alliance Network, one of our leading animal rights activists here in California, now in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. Thank you, Jane. It's, when you talk to these people, they literally compare these living sentient beings that have their own personalities. They dream, they think, they have the same desires that we do to live and be free and to love. And they reduce them to inanimate objects. And that is completely incorrect. And that's something that we need to fix. And that's part of what they're trying to do with this trial, is to show people that this is not a broken down car. They are not products. They are suffering immensely. I mean, Wayne went into how the chicken couldn't even stand when they got off those trucks, how they're crammed in there. It's absolutely horrific. And I hope that more of the public will be able to see this, not just the jurors. I hope the jurors see that and make that connection and realize that, these creatures are not products. They're not protein. They're not broken down, pieces of material. They're alive and they're suffering, and they deserve to be rescued, and they deserve to live just as much as we do.
All right, there were protests, and you see Carla, she's driving with, I believe, the defense team. Oh, I don't know what you're doing, but it's very entertaining. But there were protests today. I'm going to show you a clip of some of the protests outside court, and then we can debate. Is this helpful or hurtful, or is it a wash?
I'm able to be a part of something that was always a dream. To be a part of animal liberation is a dream come true. Although unaware of how the day would unfold, my intuition told me that they would do their job.
So, Donnie Moss, you've orchestrated many demonstrations. Look how elaborate that was with the chicken costumes and everything. What do you think the impact of that is?
DXE always choreographs these very dramatic theatrical protests, and they do get the attention of people who are in the area. It's very impressive. I would think that would be helpful. But I really don't know. I can't comment on that. I do want to make one observation about the jury and chickens, and that is that chickens and fish are, for many people, less relatable than other mammals. And so while we understand that chickens and fish feel pain, just like dogs and cows and pigs, other people might not. And it wasn't so long ago, it was in the late 1960s and early 1970s that Jane Goodall was studying chimpanzees in Tanzania and reporting on her observations, one of which is that they had emotions, and the scientific community ridiculed her and dismissed her findings. That's in our lifetime. And so we still have a long way to go to educate the public about the sentience of animals, and that all animals feel pain just like us.
So well said. And who was it? Descartes, who said that animals don't feel anything and would nail them to a wall and torture them and thought their screams were just involuntary. I mean, this is medieval. I'm sorry. It's medieval. And yet we're supposed to consider this the logical, evolved argument as opposed to the emotional argument. And the fact that people get emotional has always been used. It was used against the suffragettes, hysterical women. And so the fact that people feel and have compassion has always been used historically to denigrate a group of people who are trying to become more compassionate, which is what this trial is all about. I want to go back out to Carla Cabral, and I have no idea where you are right now driving from the scene, but what's going on? Is there going to be another protest tonight? Bring us up to date.
We've been doing a lot the last few days, and so tonight is just going to be a little bit of catch-up time for all the activists who are here and planning for the next few days, especially now given the fact that we know that this is going to go well into next week. The judge added to their calendar that we're going to be here for the rest of this week and then start bright and early Monday morning to continue the trial. And we don't know how long it's going to take. I will say it was interesting today, one of the motions that was heard, the people were trying to exclude character witnesses for Alexandra because, she's going to call several character witnesses, and those character witnesses are well-known, famous individuals, and the people thought, you know, they even said, "Oh, this is going to turn into a three-ring circus." But the judge denied that motion to exclude character witnesses. So we take that as a win, and we really want to take tonight to get ourselves put together and ready for the rest of this trial.
And I don't want to do anything. The last thing I want to do is hurt the defense in any way. Is it public who these character witnesses are going to be, or is that top secret? And that's to you, Carla.
Sorry, there was I apologize. There was a call coming in on my phone and everything was muted that you said, Jane. I have no idea what you said. I apologize. If you can repeat.
No worries. Are these celebrities that are going to testify as character witnesses public, or is it a top secret who the identities are? We're going to get you unmuted if it's the last thing.
Yeah, no. I think I caught that you wanted to know if they were public, right? Did you wanted to know if the character witnesses were public?
Yeah.
As far as I know, those that were listed were Daphne Zuniga, Daryl Hannah, and Dottie Bosch right here.
Okay. Well, thank you. We're going to come back to you in a second. And again, we'll see where you end up. Dotsie, I know you're in a foreign country. This is a very glamorous and mysterious group. I don't know where anybody is, but Dotsie, you're in a foreign country somewhere having a glamorous lifestyle, as an Olympian always should. You said you were willing to go, but yeah, you're not going to go.
No, I will if I haven't been the official ask. So if it happens, I'm on a plane.
Oh, okay. I like that. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that came up during the trial today. I want to play a clip of Wayne in a rather heated argument, basically saying that the prosecution is pulling a fast one when it comes to, there's something called discovery. You're supposed to tell the other side what you're going to do, who you're going to call, blah, blah, blah. And Wayne is saying essentially that they're pulling a fast one. So listen to this.
The prosecution has repeatedly indicated to us there are no witness statements, there are no documents, no audio recordings, no reports about value beyond a statement from one witness, the regional security supervisor at Foster Farms, Jaime Jimenez, alleging that the chickens were worth $20 based on the fact that they were live chickens in a slaughter truck, and that would be it. And I quote chapter and verse, I cite all the different exhibits of the times where I made the request informally. We filed the motion to compel. We begged and pleaded. We went to Foster Farms itself and filed a subpoena ducis tecum because I thought it was very likely that we'd be alleging something beyond just one witness's testimony that's a live animal worth $20. That's it. That's all they said they were going to provide us. And then just a couple days ago, on March 5th, we get an email, or March 2nd, I should say, we get an email saying there's an initial audio recording. We can't provide it to you electronically, so we'll send it to you physically. We just received the CD-ROM of this audio recording yesterday night. A new report filed, I think on March 1st, indicating that the witness would not actually be Jaime Jimenez. It would be an expert witness, an expert in accounting and operational strategic accounting at Foster Farms, using completely alien terminology, documents and charts that are completely unintelligible to us and that we have not been able to review or even give to our expert at the very last stage of trial. And so I believe this is a violation of the court's order to compel documents on February 21st. Maybe more importantly, I think this is a violation of Penal Code 1054.1, which requires the prosecution to quote, disclose, quote, written or recorded statements of witnesses within 30 days.
Wow. Okay. Translate for us, Nathan. What is he saying in plain English?
Every state has discovery and notice requirements that the prosecution and the defense have to abide by. And I practice in New York, but it sounds like in California, there are 30-day rules, and that is to protect the rights of the accused and to allow them to prepare for trial. So on the eve of trial, for the prosecution to change its lineup and not only call a different witness, but a witness who is actually an expert witness, really is out of bounds. I mean, it would take really an exceptional circumstance to allow that kind of, that kind of play by the prosecution. I mean, expert witnesses have every state, handles expert witnesses differently than lay people witnesses because they have unique set of expertise, knowledge about particular topics. So that allows the other side to consult an expert themselves, to possibly call them as a witness, to prepare to rebut any evidence that might come in. So so Wayne made all the right arguments, and it sounds to me like it was a no-brainer, and the judge did the right thing by not allowing the new expert witness to testify.
Okay, so let's go back to the essence of this case. Prior to the two women going and taking the chickens from the slaughter truck, which they call an open rescue and the prosecutors claim is a crime that could land him in jail for 6 months, Direct Action Everywhere did an undercover investigation of the Foster Farm slaughterhouse with infrared cameras and showed some pretty horrific stuff. In fact, the New York Times did an article about it, and I'm going to show you the article very briefly. This is an opinion piece where the writer concluded rescuing farm animals from cruelty should be legal. And what the New York Times said that was shown is as follows, namely that the infrared cameras caught, let me remove your name there. Yes, the infrared cameras that can see in the dark. The DXC activists captured video showing a production line moving too quickly, about 140 chickens killed every minute on each of the 4 slaughtering lines in Livingston, which is where this is all happening in Merced County, which is in Northern California, to offer any kind of humane death for the animals. Live birds are seen thrown, crushed, left for dead, and suffocated under piles of dead birds. Some are not properly stunned before they're killed. And while the DXE footage doesn't show this, inspectors working for the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, have reported seeing evidence that birds at the Livingston facility had been dunked alive in boiling water. And I must read this, which is Foster Farm's statement in that same article, saying Foster Farms denies any wrongdoing. In a statement, a spokesperson told me, meaning the author, that the allegations of inhumane treatment are without merit and a disservice to the thousands of Foster Farm team members that are dedicated to providing millions of families in the Western United States and beyond with a quality, nutritious product. So essentially, Donnie, what the defense was trying to say is, we tried to get the authorities, specifically the Merced County District Attorney, to prosecute what they said were documented violations of law in the form of animal cruelty caught on tape, to get the DA in that area to prosecute. She did not do that. So we had to take this other action. But apparently that's not, this necessity defense is not going to be allowed in. Is that your understanding, Donnie? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that are my, I would agree with that analysis. Here's the thing. There are anti-cruelty statutes in the state of California which prohibit cruelty to animals, but everything that happens inside of a factory farm is inherently cruel and violates the state's own statute. And so if the state were to send in investigators, by definition, what they're looking at is in violation of the law. So I can't even wrap my brain around how they would do that. The chickens in a factory farm have their beaks seared off with a hot blade. They live in warehouses with no windows and don't have any exposure to the outdoors, no access. They're stripped of the ability to do anything that comes naturally to them. Their breasts grow to be many times larger than what they would be if they, were wild chickens, and they collapse under the weight of those breasts and end up being, their skin is destroyed by the feces that they're living in toward the ends of their lives. This is standard operating practices inside of a factory farm. So the whole system is broken, and that's what DXE is trying to do. They're trying to dismantle an entire system that is inherently inhumane and shouldn't exist.
So, by the way, we invite Foster Farms on anytime. We would love to dialogue with them. Yes, we read their statement to the New York Times, but we invite them on anytime. I'm sure everybody here would like to dialogue with them. So let's go back to what happened. Let's go back to essentially what happened when these two women decided to take an action that is now resulting in a criminal trial.
Hi, Unchained. It's Alexandra. Thank you so much for being here and covering the trial. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for covering this, and thank you everybody at home who's watching and supporting the right to rescue.
So that's the alleged crime caught on tape. Now, in the normal world, it's considered gold for prosecutors to get an alleged crime caught on tape. You know, there's that old joke, well, if he did it, where's the videotape? Now, in all of these cases involving DXC, they proactively go out and videotape themselves. In the previous case, Wayne, who is representing Alexandra Paul, is a constitutional law professor who represented himself in a trial that just ended in Utah, where he went with not just any cameras, with three-dimensional cameras that captured a 360-degree view of the entire thing, and they videotaped themselves. And what they saw inside the Smithfield farm was so upsetting in terms of how these animals are treated, the pigs in that case, that the judge said, no, you can't show any of this. It would upset the jurors and they'd make an emotional decision. Well, similarly, as you just saw with the New York Times article, there was this undercover footage that DXC obtained before Alexandra and Alicia went and grabbed these chickens, showing basically what's going to happen to these chickens. So where does that stand, Carla? Are they going to be able to, Carla Cabral, are they going to be able to show any of that footage? Do we know if they're going to be able to show what happens inside the slaughterhouse?
That's a great question. I'm looking down because I took tons of notes during today's, when they were talking about the motions, and they did go over that. Here it is. Move to exclude videos, photos disclosed by the defense from within factory farm facility. And it looks like there were quite a few motions that the judge didn't make a firm ruling on. It was that it was going to be during the trial itself. When these issues come up, then a ruling would be made. So there's no firm ruling on this as of right now. Some of them were definitely denied, some were granted, and this is one I believe that fell in the middle, where they will be able to bring this up in, during the trial, and the judge will rule at that time.
Wow. Excellent explanation. So Nathan, what do you make of that? I mean, are they going to, I think this could drag on. By the way, this is a misdemeanor. I mean, I've never heard of a jury trial for a misdemeanor. I know it happens, but it's very rare. I think this could go on for a couple of weeks. Nathan.
Yeah, it's possible. It's hard to say. It depends on how fast jury selection goes. I think once it gets going, I think it'll probably be, I would say probably less than a week, although I think it's based upon what we heard last night from Alexandra on your show. It's a very good chance that the two accused will be testifying. So that'll add some time to it.
Yeah, but in terms of this whole argument, will they be able to show the video? What's going to happen in court? Like, how is that going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, like Carla just said, we're going to have to, I guess, wait to see what the judge rules. That's very frustrating as an attorney to not know that in advance, because you will often tailor your case, your arguments around that, and even jury selection. You want to be able to reference sometimes what you have, or if you don't have it in your arsenal, you want to sort of cushion the blow a little bit when you're doing voir dire. So, but you got to play the hand that's dealt you. The video is important. The video is important because we know about the horrors that happen inside these factory farms. Donnie just laid it out. But Alexandra and Alicia didn't just know about it; they saw it. And why does that matter so much? Because it goes to their state of mind. Because what is this case about? It's about, is it the intent to steal or is it the intent to rescue? And if you know and you've seen those horrors, how could it be anything but a rescue? So this ruling is crucial.
I have to say, and I'll throw this to anybody, this whole case kind of makes me feel like a bit of a coward. I've been covering this as a journalist, animal activism, for a couple of decades now. I wish I had started sooner, but I did wake up halfway through my journalistic career and started making a nuisance of myself in the newsroom, refusing to cover like rodeos as a lively, fun kicker story and things like that. But it occurs to me that this could inspire other people to go out and get arrested. Wayne's been arrested many times. Alexandra's been arrested. There are a handful of people who are just making it a career, really, their life's work, I should say, of going out and getting arrested, which is no small feat. It takes tremendous courage. Let me ask you, do you think let's put it to Ellen, you're involved in the movement. You think this is going to grow where it's going to become, part of the movement that large numbers of people get arrested, which has happened in previous social justice movements?
Yeah, I think that's happening whenever somebody takes that opportunity to save a life in the way that Alicia and Alexandra did. They take that risk to lose their own freedom. In this case, it's for 6 months. And I believe that, this will inspire so many others to do the same, to take that same risk in order to make the point that there should be a right to rescue these individuals that are on these trucks or in farms or whatever situation that they're in, that they are so direly in need of help.
Yes. Well, anyone else want to weigh in on that? I know. Yeah, go ahead. Carla, sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to weigh in on several things. One, just to reiterate, the judge, I wrote down the actual words for the videos. The judge said that he reserves the judgment until after the people present their case. And then I wanted to bring up two other things. One was that the people had a motion to exclude the necropsy of Ethan, the chicken that died, because, they didn't want the necropsy results to be put into record, and they had an issue with chain of custody. But that motion was denied. So the necropsy results will be allowed in. And lastly, I don't think it's really anything to be so proud of. I've been arrested 3 times myself, and it is not fun and should not be taken lightly. But sometimes I agree that it is absolutely the necessary thing. And I think that, the prosecution, and they are afraid that if they don't have large sentences or hold activists accountable in a large way, they're afraid that more activists will continue to be arrested and to take bold, necessary action. But what they don't understand is that we will do it regardless.
In fact, it might inspire more people to do it. Do you think this entire case, Dotsie Bausch, Olympian who does a podcast with one of the defendants, Alexandra Paul, could backfire in terms of if the point is for the animal agriculture industry to pressure people to just go home and leave this industry alone? No, I don't see that at all. The activists are too strong. They're too committed. And they're on the right side of history. I can't see that being the case. Something else I wanted to, I guess it's Nathan's in the hot seat. Alexandra had told me that the original judge who is COVID that we know, who's actually a commissioner named Foster, by the way, that judge had ordered, that commissioner had ordered for the health records on the flock. Will this new judge, do we know if this new judge is pressing to see those too? Because that seems like it could be a little bit of a game changer if those are
released.
Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with that in this case, but if there's been a prior ruling, it doesn't really matter who the judge was. I mean, that happens a lot in cases, is the case moves from judge to judge until it finally has a landing spot for trial. So whatever's been ruled on previously should still hold. So, and the fact that the necropsy report is going to come in, which is terrific, leads me to believe that that prior ruling probably did happen and will stand.
And Donnie, you had made the point that, all of these animals are so sick. So I don't think the necropsy ruling will reveal anything, great about the condition of this animal, considering that the animal died after being rescued. Do you think that's going to have an impact on the jurors, or, are they like, well, I had chicken for lunch, who cares?
Well, it's difficult to answer that question, Jane. I mean, here's the thing. When we talk about the health records of this particular flock, I would be surprised if that exists, because as I mentioned in last night's talk, you've got thousands upon thousands of chickens in each warehouse, and the workers are grabbing them indiscriminately and throwing them into crates and loading them onto trucks. So I don't know how they would be able to determine and also it's not like there are veterinarians who are examining each of these chickens. So I don't even know what health records would look like. Of course, health records should exist for every animal, human or non-human, right? I just can't see how they would exist for a flock on a particular truck. That part's confusing to me. I also want to make one other point. With regard to the animal rights movement and how we rescue animals. I mean, in years past, it was sort of conventional wisdom that activists should disguise themselves. They should do undercover operations, because if they show their faces and get arrested, then how are they going to be able to help more animals if they're in jail? But DXE sort of changed the public, the narrative about that, because they say by showing our faces, we're saying we're proud of what we're doing something we should be doing. And by inviting these prosecutions, by provoking these prosecutions, they're forcing a discourse into the public domain, into the mainstream public, that might not have happened if we all continue to wear, masks over our face and look like we're doing something wrong. These, Alexandra and Alicia don't look like they're doing something wrong. They look like they're rescuing individuals who are in need. So the movement has changed in that regard, and sort of what we're seeing is historic.
Yes, let's check Alexandra and Wayne as they took a break during court today and came out and spoke.
Are you guys going to give us an update? Is he?
Well, we just had a very intense argument about whether animals are someone or something, and the prosecution argued that there's no difference between a chicken and a chair, and we all know the truth, which is that a chicken can feel, a chicken can cry, a chicken can die. That's not true of a chair. And the legal system, sadly, in many cases has fallen behind the recognition that even the California legislature, I mean, the very statute the prosecution cited today, 597.7, says that animals are living beings who deserve protection. They are not just chairs and things for us to destroy. In fact, if there's an animal hurt in a truck, you should have the right to help them. And so I thought the statute they cited proved our point, which is under the doctrine of necessity would envision someone, our legislature, our courts, and certainly everyday people all understand that animals are someone, not something. And this is an incredibly important argument that could have immense ramifications for this trial, and not just this trial, but animal law across the world. And, I just hope the judge makes the right choice.
Yeah.
Judges often will make decisions on the basis of the interests of their county, the interest of an influential party in their county, and certainly Foster Farms, one of the wealthiest corporations in Merced County, doesn't want the public to recognize and the law to recognize that animals are persons and not things. But good judges make decisions based on principle and based on the law. And I'm optimistic and hopeful this judge will do that. But it's hard. It's hard because his job depends, the judges of the Superior Court of Merced County, their jobs depend in part on foster farms. That's just the hard, fast truth of this. So, and I'm not even saying judges will make outright explicit corrupt decisions, but it's hard to make a decision pursuant to principle when you know it's in the interest of your future electoral success, your future personal and professional success. It's hard to make a decision in contradiction to those things, even if the law and the principles that we should be standing by tell you have to make that decision. So we'll see what the judge decides, but we'll see.
Thank you. I'm very sad that the law supposedly hasn't up until maybe now included animals. As someone, because I consider a non-human animal someone, and I was actually agog that it would be such a difficult concept for the judge or any other human, frankly, especially humans who have dogs or cats in their own home. So, but we'll see. This is just, if anything, at least just bringing it up to make people think, oh, maybe an animal should have personhood. If a corporation like Foster Farms can have personhood, why can't a chicken or a dog or a cat? It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, she makes such a good point that corporations have personhood. So, clarify it, because there's a lot of stuff in there, what they said. But at the end of the day, did the side that says, chickens are just like cars win, or did the side that said chickens are sentient beings win? And maybe I guess I'll ask Nathan, do you know the answer to that?
Well, it sounds like, based on what Wayne said earlier, that the the heartless side prevailed on that. That the judge found that necessity is not applicable here because it's only applicable in cases involving humans. I'm not shocked that they were denied the necessity defense. I thought they had really strong arguments for it. Necessity is a rare defense because to use it, you have to admit the crime. You have to say, I did it, but here's why. And it's justified because it needed to be done. In a million years, I didn't think the judge would say no because the elements weren't met. I don't think the judge even reached the elements. I think the judge just said it only applies to humans, doesn't apply to people, which is really
doesn't apply to animals. Yeah.
It doesn't apply, right? It only applies to people. It doesn't apply to humans. It doesn't apply to non-human animals, and that's a sad state of affairs. Obviously, I don't want to speak too poorly of this judge, because based on everything else we're hearing, it sounds like there were a lot of great decisions for the defense. So people make mistakes, and maybe he got the law wrong, and hopefully it never comes to an appeal, because there would have to be a conviction for there to be an appeal. But if there were a conviction, this is a very good grounds for appeal, because, like Donnie said earlier, it's on the book. Animal cruelty laws are on the books, and there's a reason for that.
They don't prosecute it. This is the whole point. According to the New York Times article, and I'll probably knock off all my equipment going back to grab it, but according to the New York Times article, it's like animal cruelty is illegal in California. So is there anything that can be done when the authorities refuse to prosecute? And they have basically, and this happens everywhere, all across the country and indeed the world, animal activists are constantly presenting evidence of animal cruelty, chickens being boiled alive, being thrown on dead piles while they're still alive, etc. And there's never a prosecution by the prosecutors. And there's that. And there's also the issue of, habeas corpus. Do these animals ever get their day in court? We know, Donnie Moss, that the Non-Human Rights Project has been going for years trying to get a habeas corpus, certain basic human rights for an elephant, for a primate, and still it doesn't happen. So where are we in this battle for animal rights, Donnie?
So the Non-Human Rights Project has been arguing that Happy, an elephant at the Bronx Zoo who has been held captive on a 1-acre patch of dirt for decades, most of that time by herself, should have the right to bodily liberty, habeas corpus, which would enable her to be relocated to a sanctuary where she would be able to be with other elephants. They're social animals, they're herd animals, they're intelligent. In the wild, they will travel long distances each day. And so the Non-Human Rights Project is trying to establish a personhood via this habeas corpus argument. And that could potentially affect other animals like chickens, who people don't regard as intelligent. And so it's, I guess the point here is that we can't get the judicial system to recognize an elephant, who I think we can all agree, people who don't know about animals know that elephants are highly intelligent. Then I guess we have a long way to go legally in establishing personhood for an animal like a chicken. But, these are all spokes in the wheel strategies that are being used by Direct Action Everywhere and the Non-Human Rights Project are critical to the movement, as are the street theater and the protests, the rescues, all of it. We're all spokes in the wheel here.
Talking about this of prosecutors constantly comparing animals to inanimate objects. Let's go back to Wayne's trial, where he rescued some pigs from the Smithfield factory and videotaped himself, and the courts wouldn't allow the jurors to see that because it was so emotional that they thought they'd make an emotional decision. Let's hear that prosecutor's closing argument comparing pigs to a can.
Analyze for just a moment the reasoning being demonstrated here tonight. I think it's clear that the pigs were stolen, they were taken, and they were not returned. In fact, Mr. Shong stated he didn't want to return. That's that. Imagine the use of the word rescue in some other context. Suppose you were in the grocery store and you saw a can with dents in it, and you thought to yourself, oh my goodness, that can has a dent. It has the potential of going bad. I better rescue that can, put it in my purse, take it out of the store. Or imagine.
I mean, that did not work, Dotsie Bausch. That backfired. Your thoughts?
That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard anyone say, ever. I know it's probably too late. It is too late in this trial because they've kicked out necessity. But we've all discussed that people have a really difficult time connecting with non-mammalian animals. Is there a world where Jax or another chicken could be brought in to the courtroom? Because every one of us that have experienced them on Sanctuary know the wide variety of personality traits and feelings and experiences that these birds have. Has that happened ever? And I just can't imagine meeting Jax or any of them, the judge meeting and not having an experience like we've all had.
I love that idea. I love that idea. I mean, Carla, you're nodding your head. Weigh in. I mean, listen, they brought a lot of things into court. They've done a lot of demonstrations in the courtroom in previous trials. I've seen it myself covering criminal trials. Carla, you need to unmute yourself. Okay.
I got it. Sorry, I kept pressing the button and it wouldn't go. I'm just, Dotsie, I had the exact same thought. I thought to myself, can we bring Jax in? Can we put Jax on the stand, or is there some other way? It would be amazing if we had a live feed, in a way that wouldn't give away the location, and you could see Jax and you could see how happy he is and what a personality he has, and that he is his own individual. If there was some way that we could show the jury this incredible being and how they live today, only thanks to the brave actions of Alexandra and Alicia. I thought it would be amazing, and it might go a long way to making an incredible impact on the case. I thought the same thing, and I do want to say that when it came to the necessity defense, and I'll let the lawyers weigh in on this, I made a note. The judge actually said that with the necessity defense, it came down to whether it was a danger to the public. And so there was a lot of discussion about that aspect of it. And the judge actually quoted from the defense about like Alicia's background and actions that were taken, and that there was nothing in there about there being anything to do with a danger to the public health. And that was ultimately what he cited as being his reason to deny that.
Wait, I don't get it. I mean, we're in the midst of an avian flu that, you know, news reports are saying could be jumping from animals to humans. Millions of birds have been killed in a horrific way. Ellen Dent, that's something that's being ignored here, is that there is a threat to humanity, what we're doing to animals, you know, climate change, habitat destruction, avian flu, etc.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're ignoring, you know, even those facts that will affect our whole species. You know, if they don't care about other animals, do they not care about human animals? I mean, they need to think about the repercussions of factory farming, of treating other sentient beings this way, and what can become of that. Like, the next pandemic could happen in a factory farm or on a slaughterhouse truck, and somebody could get close to these animals in close proximity, or possibly even eat their flesh and contract a virus. And
Wow.
So I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And you bring in climate change into that. I mean, the number one thing that anybody can do to help prevent climate change is to stop eating other animals and their secretions, to stop being a part of this system that is destroying everything. Their lives, our planet, our lives, everything is being destroyed.
So we're at our hour mark. We're going to wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll continue to follow this trial. I think maybe we should go live at 4:30. What do you think, Carla? So we can catch the end of the day. It feels like they end right around 4:30. So we'll go live tomorrow at 4:30. That's Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, which is 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So we do hope you follow our coverage. It's very important to share this out so other people can see it, because there is not a lot of mainstream media coverage of this trial. And I just want to clarify that, Carla, before we go. Yesterday, you said there was, you didn't see any mainstream media there. We are the only ones going live as media on this trial, which is why I urge you to please support and download the Unchained TV app. It is free. We are a nonprofit. You can download it for free on your phone. It takes 10 seconds. Just go to your app store, or you can download it on your TV via your Apple TV device, your Roku device, or your Amazon Fire Stick, soon to be on all Samsung TVs. So yes, were there any mainstream media today, Carla? Last question.
Nope, not a soul. Nobody. Through the whole thing, nothing.
And, you know, it's so outrageous when it's not a boring story. Look at the footage, which I'll just show you for a second, of the protests they're having outside. I mean, it's you have to really be deaf, dumb, and blind not to want to cover what is really a very visually compelling. And this was yesterday. Oh no, this was actually, they're similar cases. They're similar images. This was yesterday, but there was a similar protest today. Extraordinarily visual. And mind you, this is in Blue California. Blue California not covering this. And we forget that America's largest dairy state is California, having eclipsed Wisconsin quite a while ago. So this is a very agricultural state. And they run things to a large degree. There's a huge battle happening right now over Point Reyes National Seashore, where the agencies that are in charge of protecting this treasure are allowing the dairy industry to pollute the water and kill the elk who have no water because they're being fenced in. And the dairy industry doesn't bring in as much money as the tourism industry there. And still, the agencies of government side with the dairy industry. Agencies of government have been co-opted by the dairy industry, by the meat industry, and that's part of the problem. So I want to go to final thoughts. Please tune in tomorrow at 4:30, and we'll start with Dotsie Bausch.
Well, just going off what you were saying, it's always follow the dollar every single time. The media is not there because their sister, their cousin, their husband works at Foster Farms. It sounds like they run that entire town. When we put on PSAs on NBC at the closing ceremony of these Olympic Games, the dairy industry called NBC and said take them off. They didn't even ask why. They just took them off. It's always the dollar. So we have to stop supporting these industries with our money.
And please support also Switch for Good podcast and just an amazing organization, Alexandra Paul, the defendant on the left, Dotsie Bausch, who you're hearing from right now on the right, trying to get people to realize that lactose intolerance is rampant, which is a related subject. So check out Switch for Good podcast. All right, final thoughts. Donnie Moss.
Yeah, when Chick-fil-A opened a restaurant in Midtown Manhattan a few years ago, the lines for this restaurant were down the block, and it was so disheartening. And in that moment that I walked by, I thought to myself, if I only had a chicken right now, a live chicken who I could give to the people who are standing in line and let them touch and feel and experience the chicken and the chicken's emotions, then maybe, just maybe, a few people would get out of line. And so I can't help but wonder what would happen if Jack's was given to the jurors, and and the jurors had the chance to experience Jack's, and they might disagree with the assertion that they'll never hear that Jack's is not someone, but is something.
Well, you know what? I think stunts in the courtroom, if you want to call it a stunt, are great. I've seen criminal trials where they do reenactments of how the person might have died. The defense has done that, pulling, sort of a demonstration in the courtroom. I've seen a lot of that. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a really good idea to bring Jax in. The only thing is that Jax, who is the surviving chicken of the two chickens that were taken during the open rescue, and I'll play that again as we discuss this at the end so people can, recall this is the heart of the case. This is the open rescue that resulted in these two women getting charged with theft and could go to jail for 6 months. And Jax, the surviving chicken, is at an undisclosed sanctuary. And we have to remember that in previous cases involving animals that DXC has rescued, the FBI actually got involved and went and started raiding sanctuaries and looking for the animals that were taken in an open rescue. Again, it ended when it got into, I believe it was the Washington Post or one of the major publications. And then a couple of U.S. senators were like, whoa, we're facing terrorism. We're facing domestic issues. And the FBI is running around raiding animal sanctuaries looking for a pig. It embarrassed the FBI, but that actually happened. So that chicken, Jax, is in hiding, as it were. All right, final thoughts. Nathan Semmel, our attorney, who has done such a great job analyzing the case for us.
When Wayne started tonight, he mentioned that the prosecution wanted to call a witness who would testify that the chickens were worth, I think, 3/100ths of a cent per pound. And then you see two people who are willing to, put their freedom on the line. And you see people who travel to Merced County in California and holding signs and putting on a demonstration, showing what those chickens' value really is. You can't put a price tag on it. And while I love Dotsie's idea of being able to bring the chicken or an animal that's the subject of a case into the courtroom, I'm confident that Wayne, like in Utah, is going to be able to tell the story and make those jurors feel as if Jax were on their laps. But I am confident. I love that idea, Dotsie, and I think one of us should send that idea along the way for at least for a future trial.
I love it, and I have forgotten who's done their final thoughts. Ellen Dent of Animal Alliance Network. Final thoughts for the evening.
Yeah, I agree with Donnie and Dotsie. Yeah, they absolutely need to see that chickens do have their own personalities. They do have, the ability to show affection. Definitely, I would not bring Jax into the courtroom. I feel like he would be taken away right there. So maybe with another chicken or a video of Jax that might be able to convey that to the jury and hopefully to the public as well, because I feel like the public really needs to make that connection too. And I just want to thank Carla so much for all this amazing coverage. It means so much that we are getting this out in the world, and I hope that everybody shares.
Absolutely. And you make a good point, because the poor animals considered stolen property. If you brought Jax into the courtroom, she would be immediately seized. All right. Final thought, Donnie Moss.
I already gave my final thought, but I will say this, Jane, I pulled up the quote from the New York Times story that I thought was so powerful. You brought it up, the New York Times opinion piece, rescuing farm animals from cruelty should be legal. First of all, what a joy to see that title in the New York Times. I mean, anywhere in the New York Times, but the opinion columnist writes, don't we have a moral obligation to do whatever we can to save animals from inhumane factory farming facilities, or at the very least, to not punish people who try to help?
Yes, exactly. We're trying to punish people who are trying to help and trying to turn them into criminals when literally the future of the planet could depend. And I'm going to bring these articles out tomorrow. Gosh, darn it. Okay. The singing vegan is trying to call me. I'm going to have to call her back. That's not made up. That's the truth. But, I'm going to bring the articles tomorrow. The Associated Press and others. Come on. Oh, my God. The Associated Press and others are publishing articles this week saying that we must reduce our meat and dairy consumption if we have any hopes of mitigating climate change. They are making the connection that we have been making for the longest time, because a new study just came out, and we're gonna make that connection tomorrow, starting at 4:30. I think we got everybody. Did you do your final thought, Carla? Okay, final thought.
No, I did. Yeah. I guess I have a few things. One, the final thought for me personally is that I could not be more honored to be here. And I think this is going to be a very interesting case, probably the likes of which have not been seen here in Merced County previously. And when we talk about environmental damage, I'm going to leave you with this last fact, that Foster Farms, we're in Livingston. These people are very well aware of the drought conditions going on in California. And Foster Farms uses at least 3 to 4 million gallons of water a day. 3 million to 4 million gallons of water a day to be, used to stun the chickens and countless other horrible things. So this is absolutely a matter of environmental devastation for sure.
Wow. And once again, I would like to stress, we invite Foster Farms on anytime to respond to anything that has been said. I can't confirm all the details of things that have been said in this conversation, but Foster Farms has a standing invitation. Come on our show. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about it. And for those of you watching at home, please come back tomorrow at 4:30. We will continue this trial coverage. And please download our app. We are a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit. You can watch us at UnchainedTV.com. This is streaming on our app right now, along with more than 1,000 movies. We literally we can't upload movies fast enough, all of which tell the story that there is a better, kinder way of living, better for us, better for animals, better for the planet. And it's completely free to download. Just grab that QR code with your cell phone camera and support us, because while we created a CNN Netflix for animal rights and the vegan lifestyle. Thanks to the generosity of people like Dotsie Bausch, who has donated so many of her amazing videos, her Switch for Good videos to us, and Donnie Moss, who has donated, and Ellen Dent. We also don't have millions of dollars to market our streaming network. So we have to rely on the goodwill of the compassionate, animal-loving vegan community to spread the word about Unchained TV. So please do that. And we will see you tomorrow at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern for more trial coverage. See you next time.